2016, I went under a semi-truck as a really bad car accident, and I was in a coma for 2.5 weeks. And when I woke up from the coma, I was in a vegetative state.
My life took a different path. I started bookmaking at a young age. I was, 23 years old, trying to make that money. And next thing you know, I started booking bets for one of the most infamous cartels in the world.
Jumped into a street gang at the age of 12. That just was a total pivotal point in my life where I embraced it. As soon as I got in, I embraced it. And I always say there's a reason why people join a street gang and another reason why people stay. And for me, the reason I stayed was the violence.
Doug, he called the DEA proactively, and he basically asked them, is David Vogel violating the law? And do you know what they said? They told Doug, a living legend in law enforcement, that they could not say I was doing anything illegal. The DEA basically de facto said I was clean. Doug Grover said I was clean. And then boom, I'm indicted.
Hey everyone, welcome to another Sit Down with Michael Franzese. Hope everybody is doing well. All is very good, very blessed on this end. As always, my friends, I give all the praise, honor, glory, and thanksgiving to our God for that. We have a very special episode today. You know, I'm always interested in people, and especially those who have been on a wrong path like myself at one time and have been able to reinvent themselves, transform their lives, and go on to have some success. And so through my company, Franzese Wine, we issued a challenge and we put it out there to a lot of people. And we said, listen, if you have a story of transformation, if you've been able to reinvent yourself, put yourself on a better path, come out of a bad situation, tell us about it. We want to evaluate it. And then we were going to pick the best one. But I have to tell you this, there were so many great stories, it was hard for me to pick only one. So what I ended up doing is picking 4. And it was 4 people that came out of a bad situation, you name it, very, very difficult, very tough. And through the discipline and through, other people helping them and through determination, they were able to transform their lives. And so what we've done is we've asked all 4 of them, or we promised all 4 of them that if we found them interesting, and we certainly did, like I said, there were so many to choose from, that I would do a video on them and let them tell their story. So we have 4 that we've highlighted here. And people coming out of a bad situation is something that I guess I can be an expert on because I came out of one of the worst. I mean, I was a mobster. I was a bad guy. I spent 20 years in that life. I grew up in the life. I tell people that every day I lived in violation of both God's laws and the laws of man. And just about everybody I know from my former life is either dead or in prison for the rest of their lives. Most of them are dead, and they didn't die under good circumstances. Many were murdered, many died in prison, and I certainly would have had the same fate had I stayed in that life. No question about it. I'd either be dead or in prison for the rest of my life. For me, it was a faith, it was a God experience. I had the support of my wife, who is a very godly woman, my mother-in-law, the people around me. And through a very difficult process, it's not easy to change your mind and to change your whole mindset that you've been living in for so long. But through a very difficult process, I've been able to come out on the other side. And, I just turned 74 years old. And for the last 30 some odd years, I've been living a different life. And God has honored that and blessed me in many, many ways. So we're going to highlight these people today. And listen, when you listen to them, I want you to think about it. Whenever you listen to somebody that gives you an encouraging message, something that they've been able to deal with and come on the right side of, you should apply it to your own life if you're struggling. If you're in a bad situation, if you're having a tough time right now, what can you get from these people? Maybe even from me, because I know that I've inspired many, many people throughout this last 30 years that I've been on the road talking to people and doing things to try to be helpful. What can you get out of what these people have to say? You might relate to something that they've gone through. And you may be sitting back and saying, wow, they were able to do this. Maybe now I can do it. And, I'm actually offering a program right now of reinvention. We're trying to help people because I get so many messages, so many people approach me, whether it be in person when I'm on a speaking engagement, we're doing a book signing. People come up to me, they'll slip me a note. Michael, I need your help. I get emails all the time. We get messages. So we like to, at times, put things up that might inspire you to help you make a change in your life. So without any further delay, I'm going to bring on these 4 guests. They got incredible stories, and I hope that you can get something out of it. And you know what, people? Anytime that you can make a change that's positive for you, it's not only a benefit for you, but for the people around you, your family. You know, it's an amazing feeling to be able to transform your life. So listen to what they had to say, and hey, hope you enjoy it. All right, Steve, let me welcome you to the podcast, and let me thank you for being such a supporter of Franzese Wine. I appreciate it very much. And your story is amazing. You know, you've overcome some real obstacles in your life, and I think our viewers are going to be really encouraged by what you have to say. So, and I want to personally thank you, and I admire everything that you've overcome. I can tell you that I understand what it is to overcome obstacles, and yours certainly was a big one. So, why don't you let our viewers know what you've gone through and what where you were and where you are now.
Okay, well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you very much, Michael Franzese, Mr. Franzese, for having me on your platform. This is really cool. This is an honor, and just thank you very much. I'm gonna be graduating from CSN Community College in I think less than 2 weeks. I think May 19th. I'm not sure the exact
Wow.
date.
That close, huh?
Yeah, very close. Very close. It's mind blowing to me. But so that's coming up, and I really hope to get accepted to USC, and I wanna pursue I wanna major in communications and pursue a career like yourself to become a motivational speaker, and just to show everyone that anything is possible with hard work and determination, and of course who you surround yourself with.
Yes.
That's a big factor in it. And me, luckily, I had my mom. My mom, she gave up her life basically, and just worked on me. Um, Encouraging me to working out was a big factor in my rehabilitation.
Well, why don't you, Steve, why don't you tell the people what it was that you went through? Because I think they're going to be really shocked to hear what you went through and where you are now.
Well, on July 15th, 2016, I went under a semi truck in a car accident. It was a really bad car accident, and I was in a coma for 2.5 weeks. And when I woke up from the coma, I was in a vegetative state. So I had to relearn how to do everything again. How to relearn how to talk, how to walk, how to eat food, how to express myself. Having this conversation that we're having now, I couldn't do years ago. So it took a lot of work and a lot of work and a lot of motivation to not give up. And working out was a big factor for me, and it just became a huge hobby of mine.
Steve, how old were you when this accident happened?
I was 22, and yes, I just turned 31, so we're going on 9 years now.
And who was the major motivator in your life? I think you just mentioned your mom. Was she the one that really inspired you and encouraged you to keep up your determination to get well?
Yes, definitely my mom motivated me to get back into school, because she showed me how close I was to graduating high school, because I dropped out, but I was very close to graduating, and my mom showed me my credits, and so that just gave me the motivation to get into adult school and receive my high school diploma. So that was the start of it. And then when I received my diploma, my graduation wasn't the best. Like, I just felt kind of bummed out, because I wish I could have been there with my friends, but I didn't know anyone. And my teacher actually was the one that mentioned to me and my mom about college. She said, "What about college?" And we never thought of that before. So I started my first college class, and I passed with a B, but my professor wasn't the best. He just kind of turned me off about school.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just sitting around kind of doing nothing for quite some time. And so I told my mom that let's give it another shot. And ever since then, I kept saying, "Oh, this has been my favorite semester. This has been the best semester." I just kept meeting awesome professors that have just kept encouraging me to keep going to school. Don't give up. Just because you had one bump on the road, not the best professor that kind of um,
Mm-hmm.
rubbed you the wrong way. But that's just life, right? You're gonna meet people that aren't always gonna have the best interests for you. Just
Exactly, Steve. And you can't always, when you're determined, you can't let other people discourage you. Let me ask you this. You said you're all, excuse me, you also got into working out, which probably was very difficult initially. What motivated you to just continue at it?
I my mom, cause my mom goes my mom goes to the gym with me. She jugged me with her. She dragged me with her because I think it was her birthday. Actually, it was her birthday a few years ago, and I didn't want to get her out of the house. I don't know if I guess I was depressed. I was going through my own little depression, so I didn't want to go anywhere. And it was my mom's birthday, and she said, "You're gonna go to the gym with me. It's my birthday. So be quiet and get in the car." Uh, so that was the start of it, and then I just loved it. Started liking it more and more, feeling my strength grow, and just seeing what it was doing to my body. It felt really good. And I was able to walk straighter, and just I developed enough strength to start running again.
Wow.
Because I couldn't run for years. I was in a wheelchair, and I got sent home from not from the rehab facility where I was at. I got sent home in a wheelchair.
Hmm.
Well, they not sent home in a wheelchair, but they gave me the wheelchair just in case. But I never used it, um, and so I learned how to run again. That was a big a big objective of mine, milestone, and I accomplished that, and I started to run. So
And you look like you're in pretty good shape right now.
I'm trying my best.
You still work
I,
out daily or,
yeah,
every
yeah,
day?
yeah. Every other day, or we sometimes we get in our phase where we work out daily,
Right.
and it's just it becomes a part of your life, you know.
Exactly. Yeah,
It's just
did you ever have a personal trainer or did you do it all by yourself?
um my mom my mom's my personal trainer.
Wow.
Before we had our trainer before, but then it was overall my mom.
Wow. I tell you, your mom sounds extremely special. She really does.
She's superwoman. But
Yeah. And she's still, I'm sure, very supportive of you now. Do you still live at home?
yes.
Wow.
But she's really supportive of me. And
That's great. And you said something, it's so important to surround yourself with the right people. Is there anybody else in your life that's been really supportive and helped you along?
not really. It's just been me, my mom.
So your mom is really it, huh?
And of course we've had angels along the way, that I've just, it was that push, the extra push to not give up, and just the little bit of help from people, um, mainly friends of ours. Now they're family, of course,
Right.
but just not so much. My mom's pretty much been the only one, to say
Wow.
the least.
Like I said, very special. Steve, let me ask you this. There are a lot of people out there now that are struggling with, some physical disabilities, some emotional. And there are people out there, I'm sure, that, are ready to give up or just don't have the determination to try to make their lives better. I mean, you basically reinvented yourself, from that horrible accident. You had to really come back in every way possible, mentally, physically, emotionally, every way. What would you tell people out there that might be struggling, maybe not as severe a struggle as you had, but, to people, everything is relative. We all go through our own demons, so to speak. What would you say to encourage those people out there that might be dealing with some of the issues that you dealt with?
Just to never give up. Make sure you surround yourself with people you love, people that encourage you to not give up, to, and they encourage you to do good. Because if you start hanging around bad people that you see bad things, you're gonna be a part of it, and it's just that's just the way it is and the way it goes. So make sure you surround yourself with people you love, people you care about, and people that are doing good. And
Well, Steve, I can tell you this. There's an old saying that I think in most cases is true, and that is, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And it all depends on what kind of person that you are. But you're living proof that you can come back from something, really traumatic in our life, in your life, and really do some great things. And mentally, physically. Now you're going to be graduating from is it USC or UCLA?
no. CSN, College of
Oh,
Southern
CSN.
Nevada. I applied to USC, so
Applied
hopefully
to you.
that goes good.
Okay, and so after you graduate, you'll find out about USC, right?
Yes, exactly.
Well, listen, we'll be plugging for you, and if you ever need any references or you need any help from us here, either at Franzese Wine or at our membership platform, the family, we'd be very, very happy to support you in any way that we could. I really mean that. You're certainly somebody to be admired.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate your time for having me on your platform. Thank you
Well,
very much, and
it's been an honor and
thank
it's been an honor and a pleasure on my part, and I'm so happy to have you in the Franzese family, Steve. So God bless you, and I'd love to meet your mother one day.
thank you. Okay. She's actually right here.
Well, can I see her for a minute? I just want to say hello.
Yes, she'll jump in.
Okay.
Quick second, and one quick thing. I want to thank everyone that helped get me here in this podcast. Thank you very much. It's a lot of my best friends that I love so much helped me.
Great. Well,
Hi, Mr.
listen,
Francis.
hi. But don't be upset if I call you mom, but just you're a very, very special person, and I really appreciate everything you've done with Steve. I mean, you're obviously, the light of his life. So really, it's just an amazing story, and you're an amazing woman. So thank you very much.
Well, first of all, Mr. Francis, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart because Stephen missed a little bit of how he got here. Years ago, he was in and out of jail, and it was a constant struggle. It's that phone call you fear to get as a parent. And unfortunately, Stephen, after work, he went out with his buddies and went under a semi. And they told us that he was not going to make it. He got what it's called diffuse axonal injury, which means that all the neurons are disconnected from the brain. And the ones that do wake up are highly impaired. 90% don't wake up because it's diffuse axonal injury. Long story short, When he was released from the hospital, he went to a rehab center, but he stayed in a vegetative state. And I, as a mother, my goal was to get him into a life that he can defend himself. As parents, we want our kids to be independent. And Steven, it was an every day where he works out so hard at everything. For us that we don't have these disabilities, it's easy for us to wake up and get dressed and breathe. In his situation, it was very different. He had to relearn how to breathe again on his own. So that's why with this type of injury, 90% don't wake up, and the ones that wake up are highly impaired. Steven, not only did he recover, but he overachieved. He's a Phi Theta Kappa honors roll student. He's the very first student to ever achieve those accomplishments from the College of Southern Nevada. So the reason why USC is so special to us is because when Steven had his accident, they rushed him to USC Trauma Center. And when we went to the school to get to go for the tour, I asked the academic advisors and I said, how many students have you had where there were patients at one point dead, artificially alive, to now trying to get into the school? They've never had someone like Steven. So Steven wants to go to USC because it's the #1 for communications. Mm-hmm. But a lot of it, you had a huge impact on Steven. Mm. Steven met you one time when you were at the church after he was out of jail. We have a picture with you and him, and one of the things we told him to read, and his father had a book of yours. I didn't know who you were, but you were a huge motivation for Steven to turn his life around and have some kind of hope.
Wow.
So thank you, sir, for having Steven in your platform.
Well, that just gave me the chills to hear that. I didn't know that. So, praise God for that. But listen, this is an amazing story. And Steven, you're a very special young man. I can tell you that. And you have a very special mom. And you're just proof that, almost anything can be overcome if you have good support and just the determination. So it's an incredible story. I think a lot of people are going to want to hear this, and we're going to be anxious to share it. So thank you so much. I hope I get to meet you again. We're actually neighbors. I live in Orange County, so I'm not far from you if you go to USC. So maybe we'll get the chance to meet again, and I'm sure that'll happen in the future. So God bless you both. Thank you very much for being aboard, and thank you again for supporting us the way you do. And hopefully we'll see you again.
Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye. God bless.
God bless.
Oh, and first of all, let me thank you for being a great supporter of Franzese Wine. Appreciate it very much. You've we need people like you, and both Sam and myself and everybody involved in the team. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. And thank you for being involved in this. And you have an incredible story. And people love to hear comeback stories and people that have been able to overcome obstacles and challenges in their lives. Sometimes we make some bad decisions. I know I made many of them, and by the grace of God, I've been able to correct them and move forward. And I think in the same way, your story is pretty similar. So why don't you let our guests know? Our viewers are going to be, excited to hear your story, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, Michael, I was involved in racketeering just like yourself. I got indicted in 2015. I came off a couple national championship football teams with the USC Trojans under Pete Carroll. Wow. And from there, I was around all these silver spoon kids from USC and playing with these guys that all went to the NFL. And I was just trying to chase that money, trying to fit in, and my life took a different path. I started bookmaking at a young age. I was, 23 years old, and trying to make that money. And next thing you know, I started booking bets for one of the most infamous cartels in the world. And unfortunately, I went down the path of organized crime and, became one of the largest quarterbacks for the cartel. And, I ended up in federal prison and currently still living in the Federal Bureau of Prisons halfway house. And everyone likes, like you said, everyone likes a comeback, a second chance. And this is my second chance right now.
Where did you do most of your time, Owen?
I started at the USP Lompoc and then eventually went down to the FCI next door. And then from there, I got transferred to Victorville. And from Victorville, eventually I got sent to FCI Colorado and Littleton.
Well, I got to tell you, we both were in the same places. I was in Lompoc, I was in Victorville, and I was also in Colorado. A little bit earlier than you, but yeah, I was there. So Lompoc wasn't bad. I mean, especially when we got into the mediums. I never made the camp, but I was in the medium there. It wasn't bad.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. The meeting was great. Actually, it actually turned into a meeting when I was there, so I enjoyed it. They still have those cable weights, if you remember. Carmen Persico had that rose garden they took out.
They took it out, huh?
Yeah, they took it out, but I liked it. There were some good guys there that enjoyed working out, and I just kept my my mind right by doing my pull-ups and push-ups every day.
I'll be honest with you, I didn't like it when they sent me to Victorville. I liked it better in Lompoc.
Yeah, Victorville was all awful, man. It was just desert.
Yeah.
There was nothing to do. You're doing pull-ups off the staircases.
Yeah, it was tough. How much time did you end up doing?
I did 9 inside, and I got the last year in the halfway house right now in Los Angeles.
On how restrictive? Well, I was in the halfway house in L.A. They were pretty easy with me. I was gone at 6 a.m, got back at 12 midnight. Actually,
I don't have it that nice, Michael. But I'll tell you what, I leave at 6 a.m, and my curfew tonight's 9 because they knew I was interviewing with you. So they're big supporters of the comeback story. This brand I started, California Ice Protein, and they're really excited about the documentary that's coming out and the book that I recently wrote that came out Black Friday.
Well, let me ask you, what made you, this whole change in you? Did it occur in prison? When did the light bulb go off and say, you know what, I got to change my ways? What happened?
Once that judge sentenced me to 21 years, and I said to myself, wow, this is a time to rehabilitate, right? He's obviously sending me away for a reason. And, I got to prison. I said to myself, well, I guess it's time to sober up. I was using drugs and drinking and partying like a rock star. I'm not going to lie. And I realized once I got to prison, I said, man, I got to make a change in life. And I went from putting bad things on the streets now to, distributing healthy treats. It's a weird comeback, but I'm enjoying it. I'm a big fitness guy, and I ended up getting my master's degree in business administration while incarcerated, and I started this brand while in prison in my 6x8 cell, in a mop bucket with ice and rock salt.
Wow. Yeah, tell us about it. What does the beverage do?
So it's actually a ice protein. So by accident, I was in my cell one day, and my cellie said, "Hey, if you want to keep your protein shake cold, why don't you just throw some salt on it with the rock salt from Colorado?" If you remember, they used to have that rock salt to melt the sidewalks.
Yeah.
So I used that rock salt to keep my protein shake cold. And one day I came back, and the protein shake turned into like a frostbite, like almost like a smoothie, like an ice cream. And I started eating it, and I was like, man, this is awesome. And so next thing you know, I started making it for my workout crew, and I was making like 7 at a time, and everyone's like, man, you should sell this. This is like ice cream. It's protein ice cream. Wow. Next thing you know, I'm selling 30 jars on a Saturday, and come NFL Sunday, I'm selling 50 jars a day at $15 a piece. And I said, man, I think I'm onto something.
Yeah.
And out literally in 2024 of March, and as soon as I hit the ground at the halfway house, I remember the first thing I wanted to do was start researching if there's any protein ice cream out there. And that's the story, and I've been running with it since, and we're building the brand as we speak. And like you see behind me, I got my ice cream push cart right here. Joined the ice protein revolution, and some of my buddies that are artists, did some cool paintings for us. Just real bright and colorful, from this dark past of my life now to this, bright future.
Well, listen, I got to commend you for that, Owen, because not many people, I think the majority of people don't make the prison time work for them. One of the things that bothered me the most, when I was in prison, I did 8 years, but I saw guys going out on parole and coming back 3, 4, 5, 6 times, and I couldn't believe it. I wanted one chance to get out, but these guys were going in and out and in and out. And so it's not too often that somebody makes the prison time work for them and really kind of reinvents themselves while they're in there. So I really commend you for that. I know it's a big accomplishment. And let me ask you this: is it available now, your beverage, in any retail outlets yet?
Yeah, so it's an ice cream bar. Actually, we have it
Oh,
in a 24-hour fitness in Long Beach, downtown Long Beach. We have one in Huntington Beach called Everybody Nutrition, which carries our bars, and then there's another meal prep company called Healthy Meal Prep in Fountain Valley, and we also have a GNC in Granada Hills that carries it. We currently have 100 freezers that are landing this month from China. We're going to pay that tariff, and we're going to have 100 freezers. We're going to have 50 in Miami and 50 in California. So by summertime this year, the grant my release date in the halfway house is June 26th.
right.
So I tell myself if I can release June 26th and have 100 freezers in the United States, I'll feel pretty good about myself.
No, that's terrific. And just a heads up, my daughter and son-in-law, they own two gyms here in Irvine and Newport Beach. So when you get out, I can put you in touch with them, and they got a pretty big membership there. So maybe there's something you can put there also.
Yeah, I would love that. I've been at Equinox, and everyone at Equinox is like, man, you guys have to carry this here. It's amazing. So I can't wait. I'd love to see you in person. I was going to bring you some, but next time when we're in Newport golfing, we'll have a bar together.
Yeah, well, June 26th, that's around the corner, man.
Yes, sir.
And I understand you're starting your own YouTube platform also?
Yeah, I'm learning, man. It's this technology. When I got out, someone gave me a smartphone. I didn't know how to use it. I was using a BlackBerry. So they put together a team for me, and the social medias. It's been fun telling the story, and I'm looking to have this platform where you come work out with me, and we sit down and enjoy the podcast together, and I break out the ice cream and we eat it together, and you tell me give me a review on a healthy ice cream. I call it an innocent indulgence.
No, that's a great idea. And yeah, you got to build your platform. I mean, that's where it's at today for business. And if you build a really successful platform, you'll find out that YouTube is paying you to market yourself. So it turns out good. It's an offer you shouldn't refuse. Let's put it that way. But let me ask you now, do you work out a lot yourself daily?
Yeah, I work out 5 days a week, and then I usually try to take the weekends off. As you know, we get a 24-hour home pass
Right.
to visit our family, so I try to enjoy the weekend with my uncle. But I eat real clean. I eat 4 ice cream bars a day, and I still got a six-pack, so the product's working.
Well, listen, I'd be interested in trying that myself. I work out at least 3 times a week. I try to do 4, but 3 times is good at least. And I'm surrounded by everybody that's just fitness freaks. I call them the Franzese fitness freaks because my wife, it's a lifestyle for her since I met her at 19 years old. She's been working out. My 2 of my daughters are fitness trainers and nutritionists, and my son-in-law is now the same. My son-in-law yesterday, well, future son-in-law, he's marrying my youngest daughter. He ran a 26-mile marathon on Sunday, and he did it pushing in a wheelchair, I guess, his roommate who has muscular dystrophy, but a little bit more advanced. And he ran the 26 miles. It was unbelievable. Yeah, unbelievable.
Amazing.
Yeah, in a wheelchair. But he was a professional baseball player. He played for the Giants in their minor league system, and then he got released after 5 years. But they're all crazy. I have no choice but to be fit because I'm surrounded by it.
Sounds like you got the perfect family, man.
Yeah, I do, and we're gonna certainly enjoy your product also, no doubt.
Perfect. I can't wait. I would like to drink some of your non-alcoholic wine. Obviously, I've been sober for 10 years, so I heard you got a non-alcoholic version.
We do, and it's really starting to take off. Walmart just took an 8-state order on it, so we've given them an exclusive for I think 60 days, and it just went on the shelf this past April, so we're excited about that. But it's good, it's really good. You'll enjoy it because it's an alcoholic wine, and then we extract the alcohol out. So we don't extract the taste out, we extract the alcohol, and it's been really going over well.
Oh, that's great. Can't wait to try it.
But anyway, Owen, really proud of you, and I know how difficult it is to come back. 9 years in prison, a lot of people come out angry and they come out resentful, and they just waste the rest of their life. And I'll tell you this, You know, I went to Angola prison, and I've visited so many prisons across the country and even around the world. And so many guys that I've spoken to, 55, 60 years old, that are doing life for 50 years, and they all look back and they say, Michael, you know, I don't know what I did. You know, I don't know what to do. I don't know what I did, but look where I ended up. And you know, we could easily end up there. And these are not first time offenders. They're first, second, third, fourth. They've had opportunities and just kept doing the same thing until finally it got them forever. And it's a shame when that happens. It's very sad to see. And you know, I commend you for, you know, making the most out of your time and coming out and really doing something good for you and for the rest of the world. Because anytime you're pushing a healthy product like that, it's great. So I really commend you for that. And I thank you for being part of our group. And I look forward to maybe coming on your platform, you coming on mine, and just talking about your product and everything that you're doing. It's a great story.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Michael. We'll definitely have you on when the time comes, and I look forward to seeing you down in Orange County. And remember, as a Trojan, we just fight on.
Yes, yes, I know that. Well, I can't say I'm a USC fan. You know, I'm still a New Yorker at heart, and that's where my heart is. But it's a great school, and so you just keep fighting on.
I appreciate it.
All right, man. Let me know when you get out. You know, give me a holler, and then we'll plan to meet at some time over the summer.
Sounds good, brother.
All right, brother. You got it.
My spring. Take
You
care.
got it. Take care, man.
See you guys.
You hear me?
You got it, Fernando. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Pretty good, thank you. And thanks for joining us, and thanks for being a follower of Franzese, a supporter, I should say, of Franzese Wine. We appreciate that very much. And you have an incredible story, something I can relate to quite a bit. You know, you've sort of reinvented yourself after some tough times. So I'm proud of you for that. And, you know, I got a little glimpse of your story, but would love for you to tell our viewers. I'm sure they'd like to hear it. You know, Fernando, there's a lot of people struggling out there, and they wonder how they can make a comeback, or, you know, how to reinvent themselves after a problem they faced in their life. And, you know, it's guys like you and even myself to some degree that inspire these people. So why don't you tell us what you went through, where you are now, and I think people are going to really enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me. And yeah, so I grew up in the streets. Since a little kid, recalling getting jumped into a street gang at the age of 12, and that just was a total pivotal point in my life where it just I embraced it. As soon as I got in, I embraced it, and I knew that that was gonna be my life, no matter what. Like, I got my neighborhood at some point, in the future. I got my neighborhood blasted across my chest. I represented that with the fullest intent to either spend the rest of my life in prison, or I was gonna die in the streets. But initially, that I knew that that was gonna be my future. But during the process, I was going in and out of juvenile hall, in and out of the LA County Jail, and eventually ended up doing state time, which led to that pivotal moment where God steps in into my life and totally changes everything. But I never went to jail to look for God. I never went to jail to look for God. God was never in the picture. I mean, I grew up Catholic, and God, God was there in the background, but it was never something that I accepted, or nothing that I wanted to follow, because obviously because of the life that I chose to live. And so when I was in Supermax in Castaic, fighting my case right before I ended up getting convicted, I ran into a guy who was calling the shots at the time, and something about him that's just separated him from everybody else, because up to that point I never experienced a person with that type of leadership. He wasn't a Christian, but one of the things that I did notice about him is that he would read his Bible before lights went out. And every time I would look at him, and I would look, down his bunk, and I would notice it, and I would think to myself, well, what's so interested in that book that he should read it? And I never questioned it, never asked him anything. But the day that he got convicted, he caught the chain and went upstate. I picked up a small Gideon Bible. And at that point, I started the Gospel of Matthew. When I arrived at the part where Jesus was being crucified, that just totally broke me. That was just like, I mean, I'm doing time since I was a kid, grew up in the streets. And up to that point, I never realized that my life was completely heading in the wrong direction. That was just that moment where God just totally opened my eyes and allowed me to see what 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 Jesus what he did on the cross wasn't just how I used to view it. I used to view it as something that he did for everybody else except me. I never thought I was included in that. So at that point, when God opened my eyes, I repented. I asked God to forgive me, and it wasn't an easy transition because I mean, going from that life to now having new desires and a desire to serve God and a desire to leave my past behind was very difficult. So that when eventually, as time progressed, I started to study the Word. I started to read, and that there did come a point where God drew the line, and God said, I didn't hear God's voice audibly, but I did hear God tell me directly, who is it going to be? Is it going to be me, or is it going to be them? Referring to my homies, and I think that God made a reference to that because I was loyal to that. Like my commitment was to that life, that lifestyle, and whatever came with that. But when God drew the line at that moment, without hesitation, I said, "It's going to be you, Lord." And from that moment on, I began to uh, present myself as a Christian. Even when I was in the prison yard, I never, I stopped. I didn't stop totally associated with my friends. I still would be there, and I was still, as they needed anything, I would help them. But my life was totally separated from that because now I was serving God. And
You know, Fernando, it's amazing how similar our stories are in that regard. It was, a prison Bible, a Gideon's Bible that was handed to me by a prison guard, actually, that
Yes.
started me on my journey when I was in solitary for, almost 3 years. But it's amazing. I understand everything that you're saying, and I can relate to that. But I have a question. What was it that attracted you to the gang at 12 years old? What was it? And you said you felt good about it. Your heart was in it. What was the attraction?
the attraction for me, once I joined and I realized what I was getting myself into, was the violence, the physical violence. That's what
Mm.
attracted me. And I always say there's a reason why people join a street gang and another reason why people stay. And for me, the reason I stayed was because of that. I enjoyed it, and I was very much a part of that.
Let me ask you, did you have two parents in the house? Were you a two-parent home or?
Yes, I had both my parents at home except my dad. My dad was never really around
Mhm.
during my upbringing, and my mom was at home for a short period of time, but then she worked, so we really didn't have anyone at home.
I got it. The reason I say that, when I was in prison, I spoke to so many young gangbangers that had similar stories. They didn't have a father figure in the house and they had their mom, but their mom was struggling too, trying to do her best to raise her children and work. And, so she couldn't have much control. And then you get attracted to the street and the gangs and that brotherhood and all of this stuff. So it's a common story, it really is. But what's not common is the way you've gotten yourself out of it. So, again, both of us did it through the blood of Jesus, and that's what turned our life around. But from that point on, it's still not that easy because you have to change your whole mentality.
Yeah.
And now you've changed it in a way you become success in the legitimate world. So how did that whole transition happen for you?
It was difficult. It was difficult because I still had roots, and it was hard to uproot my lifestyle from that direction that I was heading to. But ultimately, it was God. I dip my eyes in God's word daily. I totally surrendered to Him, and although it was hard, I still kept leaning on Him. So when I paroled, so I ended up doing close to 7 years in prison. So when I paroled and I came home, I was I just leaned heavily on Him because I knew that I couldn't do it on my own. I knew that, and God revealed that. Like, so my time in prison, serving that time as a Christian, it not only did it challenge me, but it also helped me in such a tremendous way that because the challenges I faced in prison, I don't face those challenges out here. Out here is easier to walk away. It's easier to hide on the streets. It's easier not to be around anybody. But when I was challenged in prison for my Christianity, God used that to help me be able to make it out on the streets as well.
Mm. When you were released and went back to the same neighborhood, did you have any trouble from, former associates? And walking away from sometimes is not easy. I know I went through some tremendous struggles as a result.
Yeah, it wasn't as I thought it was going to be worse than it actually was, but no, my a lot of my homeboys for by God's grace embraced it and just kind of just let me do my own thing. I was afraid though prior to getting out because because I have my neighborhood, it's like a billboard across my chest,
Hmm.
and I did kind of fear, okay, if I go to the beach, I'm not gonna go in there, or if I go swimming, I'm not gonna go in there with the shirt on. I always take my shirt off. And
Hmm.
I thought, okay, what if something that I did to somebody in the past, they see me with my
Right.
shirt off, or they retaliate it? But no, but by God's grace, God has been very gracious and very merciful, and has spared me from a lot from a lot of things.
So you believe he protected you once you committed to him, and he really knew that you were sincere, and he knew your heart. You
Yes.
believe he's had his hand of protection on you.
Absolutely. God has definitely made himself real, as he's not just God is a real person. He's a real person to me and always has been, and I've always held that I've always had an intimate relationship with him, and I've always seen him that way, and I do see that God has had his hand upon me throughout, even when I was in the streets to today.
Well, I agree with that. And so many people have so many people have said the same thing to me, Michael, and I say, hey, God had a different plan and a purpose for me, and when he has that for us, then he'll direct our steps and he'll put his veil of protection on us, and that's what he's done with both of us. Let me ask you this: explain briefly where you are today, how you've been able to succeed and turn your life around and grow a big business.
Yeah, so well, I'm married. We have 4 kids, and
Wow.
I started my business as a general building contractor, and plugged into my church, and we've just been steadily moving forward, holding hands, hand in hand with God.
Excellent. And your wife has been very supportive, I assume.
Very supportive. I would not gone as far as I've been without her support. Yes, absolutely.
Isn't it amazing, Fernando? Where would we be without the women in our life? If
We'd
it
be in
wasn't for
trouble.
my wife, yeah, I'd either be dead or in prison if I didn't meet that young girl.
Oh yeah, same here.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think sometimes they have a little bit more. There's something more special about them, that they just have this influence over us to keep us in the right direction, and praise God for that.
Amen.
Well, let me tell you, it's a tremendous story. I want to thank you again. I think people are going to be very encouraged to hear it. These it's so encouraging when somebody has come out of a difficult situation, been able to turn their life around, especially through Jesus Christ. I've been preaching that word now for 30 years, and it's what it is. If you're not walking with Jesus, just that life has so much less meaning. It really has no meaning, because we
Yes.
know where we're going at the end, and we're going there because of the blood of Jesus and his sacrifices and grace and mercy on us. So, incredible story. Just quickly, what would you tell everybody out there, or anybody out there that wants to turn their life around and has been able to do or can do what you've done in your life? What do you have to say to them, just briefly?
I would say that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and turn to him, and he will guide your steps.
Amen. You said it all. Fernando, thank you very much, brother.
Amen.
And
Thank you.
hopefully I get to meet you. You still in LA?
Still, San Fernando Valley.
Oh, okay, cool. We'll
Yes.
get to meet at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah, it'd be nice. All right.
All right, my friend.
Thank you very
God
much
bless.
for having me.
Thank you. Thank you.
God bless you.
David Vogel, a pleasure to have you, my friend. And, first of all, I want to thank you for being such a tremendous supporter of Franzese Wine. I really mean that. You're very involved in our company, and you're always there to support us. And here you are today as one of the people that was selected because you have a great story, and you tell it well. And I got to tell you, you're always amusing. I enjoy getting your emails. I enjoy speaking with you. So it's a pleasure to have you around. And I want you to tell people, we did this so that we want to inspire people. We want to encourage them with individual stories and things that we've overcome in our lives. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you went through, where you are now, and I'm sure our viewers are going to enjoy it.
Okay, well, I'm an ordained minister. I'm a father of 5. I'm
Hmm.
a guy who wore a wire in Trump's old building to expose corruption. I
Hmm.
mean, my story is one of betrayal, redemption, mafia politics, and also divine mercy. So I grew up in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, an Orthodox Jewish household. My mother, she lit candles every Friday night. My father served in the Korean War. My grandfather, he was too old to fight in World War II, but he made uniforms to support the war effort. My neighborhood, as you know, Bensonhurst, was a patchwork of Jewish and Italian families. We broke bread together. We fought on the same little league team. I mean, it was a kind of street ethics, as you know, that we all followed. And my word was my bond. I was raised to believe that honor wasn't negotiable. Now, I had a tainted background. I was kind of a scammer when I was a teenager. I had a mail order business, and I'm going to be 100% transparent. I wasn't very ethical, but I was lost. And when I was 26, I was still clinging to my Orthodox Jewish roots, but I met a man named Mike Haynes, who was a mentor at the company I worked, Heritage Rare Coin Galleries. He brought me to First Baptist Church. He introduced me to Jesus, and it all clicked. So everything in the Old Testament pointed to Jesus, and I gave my life to Christ when I was 26. I never looked back. Now,
Let me ask you this, David. Just stop you. Coming from Jewish parents, how did they accept that?
Honestly, I really didn't talk to them much about it. I wasn't. I mean, by that time, my dad was dead, and my mom, she just accepted it. I mean, it wasn't a big deal. Like I said, when I was a scoundrel when I was a teenager. I was very dishonest, but after coming to Christ, I rebuilt my business, my life on truth. My handshake, it became a contract. My business was clean. I had clients that were worth hundreds of millions of dollars in the numismatic business. They trusted me. And, then it happened. When I was a little bit older, I moved to Trump World Tower. I wasn't just some resident. I was actually a soldier for the Trump organization when Trump sued the city of New York. Donald Trump, he alleged and he proved that the city inspectors were soliciting bribes. Now, as part of the settlement, Trump World Tower got a multi-decade tax abatement. But Trump, he had racked up legal bills, a lot of fees, so the board owed him roughly $30 million. My neighbor, Drew Aaron, he negotiated it down to $15 million. But then Barry Jacobson, who also served on the board, he refused to pay Trump anything. And I can't make this up. He threatened to kill Drew Aaron if we paid Trump a dime. He basically told Drew, if you sign that check, I'll kill you. And that wasn't posturing. I mean, Barry, he had power. He had serious money. He had a violent edge. At that time, Deborah Stopps, who was Trump's liaison, asked me to intervene. She knew Barry's cousin. He lived next door to me on the 59th floor. And I wore a wire for Trump. I mean, it was that simple. I risked everything. I did it, number one, to protect my friend Drew. But let me be honest, I also wanted Donald Trump to know I stood up.
Did Donald engage you personally to wear that wire?
No, it was through Deborah Stotts, who was Trump's executive in the building. She ran the building.
Okay.
And later on, I was prosecuted for a crime. I'm innocent. And let me explain. I owned a pain clinic in Texas. We followed the Intractable Pain Act to the letter. I wasn't a physician. I wasn't writing scripts, but I was smart. So I hired the best legal counsel I could find. And here's where I want to talk about Doug Grover. I mean, you might know him, Mike. He's, at the time, he was a mob buster. Doug Grover, was the deputy chief of the U.S. DOJ's Organized Crime Strike Force.
I remember the name. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm sure he took
I
down.
was, I was prosecuted by the strike force, so I know it.
Okay. I'm just curious. Did you know Doug?
No, I didn't know him, but his name was in some of my paperwork and everything, and I knew who he was, obviously.
Okay. Well, he took down Tommy Gambino. He took down Salvatore Angela. He helped lead the Abscam prosecutions. And this man, I mean, he was allegedly he was feared in every major crime family in America. So when I hired Doug, it wasn't because I needed a defense, it was because I needed the truth. And he investigated my business, everything I was doing, side by side with Texas attorney Susan Hendricks. Now, Doug, he called the DEA proactively, and he basically asked them, is David Vogel violating the law? And do you know what they said? They told Doug, a living legend in law enforcement, that they could not say I was doing anything illegal. Now let that sink in. The U.S. government, the DEA, basically de facto said I was clean. Doug Grover said I was clean. And then boom, I'm indicted. Now what changed? It was the goalpost. The DEA's own website had a pain protocol, and it was developed in partnership with the University of Wisconsin. We followed it. Our doctors followed it. But boom, the web page vanished, gone, deleted, as if it never existed. They wiped their own blueprint clean. Then they used my adherence to it as evidence against me. Just imagine shooting at the goal, then someone moves the goalpost, and then they arrest you for missing. I mean, Michael, it's a mafia democracy. That's what you call it. That's what I call it.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't about justice. It was about power. Now, I was convicted under a legal standard that the Supreme Court later invalidated under the I might be pronouncing that wrong, the Ruan case, R-U-A-N. So if Ruan had come earlier, I wouldn't have served the day. And they offered me 3 years on a plea deal. I said no. I wouldn't lie. I wouldn't say I was guilty. They gave me 20 years. I served 11. And, when I got out, I didn't crawl into a corner. I started preaching. Every morning at 7 a.m. on LinkedIn, I deliver a live sermon. I call it Sunrise in the Presence of God. Rain or shine, I talk to God, I talk to the people, and I bring a light to the C-suite. And I didn't stop there. I got involved helping my son with solar energy to help the world. I helped one of my son's clients access free money. I mean, I got one of his clients $849,000 in free money. And it's really more than that. It's reinvention with a purpose, because to me, the truth matters. And that's why I just did a 1 hour and 37-minute video interview with Sherry Ann Alperovich. She's part of our extended family. Yeah. I connected, thank you, Michael, through the Franzese family network. And as we speak right now, the interview is going viral on LinkedIn, and people are finally hearing the full story without spin. And I want to highlight one other thing. I work with Bob DeSena. You might know him. You probably know his cousin. He's the founder of Council for Unity. And the man's a legend. He sat with gang members in schools and prisons, not just to scare them straight, but to love them into transformation. And I followed that lead. When I had my pain clinic, I was the #1 financial supporter of Council for Unity. And I also sat with gang-involved youth myself. I listened. I told them my story. I gave them hope. And I saw lives change. I saw tears. I saw young men who wanted to believe that a new path was possible. And Mike, Bob's teaching, it stuck with me, especially this one. Unity It's not just a word, it's a mission. And I brought that into my business and my preaching. And now with the Church of Unity, which I formed, working to build something global, a network of people who believe in redemption, justice, and truth. And the one thing I want to tell your audience, don't believe everything you read. Dig deeper. Ask yourself, why would someone risk their life if they had something to hide? Ask why a man like Doug Grover, a mob buster with 40 years in the trenches, would stand behind me. Ask why the DEA erased their own website. And I'm not looking for sympathy. I'm asking for clarity. I'm asking for truth. And Mike, I thank you. Thank you for giving me that chance. And I just want to say this from my heart. The only way to truly make things right in my life is to get clemency, not as a legal technicality, but as a divine restoration. I talked about it in my full interview with Sherry Ann. And again, thank you for the introduction. It's going viral on LinkedIn because it's raw, it's real. I talked about wanting a wife, a family. I got 5 amazing kids, but I'm not done.
Well, let me ask you this: there, when you talk about clemency, are you actually going to apply for it?
I have applied.
Oh, you
I
have?
applied. Yeah, I applied under President Biden, and he promised clemency reform. He stood in front of the nation and said it would happen, and he lied. He turned his back on the honest, the innocent, and the redeemed. And instead, he granted pardons to convicted killers like Leonard Peltier, a man who executed 2 FBI agents. He gave clemency to Adrian Peeler. He was convicted in the killing of a mother and an 8-year-old child.
Well, David, let me tell you, I don't give him a pass on that because he doesn't deserve a pass. You know my feelings about Biden, but I'm sure there were people around him that, he just used his auto pen and did whatever they told him to do because he wasn't in control of his presidency. And again, that's no excuse. When you take on a job like that, you have a major responsibility and you don't shun it because you're affecting the world, not only your own country. But listen, David, it's an incredible story. I'm sorry what happened to you. I really am. You know how my feelings are with the government. And all I can say is I hope under this new administration, the Department of Justice, the FBI, and the DEA, I hope they straighten all this fraud, abuse, and there's just terrible, terrible corruption that we've had over the past several years. And I hope that Trump now, really straightens it out. And any way that we can support you, in your quest to get clemency, maybe now under this new administration, you'll see something different. But listen, I admire you. You're a fighter. You really are, and
Thank you.
you're very, very determined. And I believe that you're going to accomplish it. It takes a while, I know, with these clemency things. But I'm going to go for a pardon myself. Only because it's been 30 years, and when we change our lives around, and I think people can see that, when it's over a long period of time, well, then maybe that, some people deserve, some consideration in that regard. So I'm going to try for it too. But listen, it's an incredible story. Just one last thing that you want to tell people before we close down.
Well, my message is to Donald Trump. I was a soldier. You might not know that, okay? Because, look, in your position, you might not know what I did. All I'm asking is for a review. Just look at my case, look at the facts. And Alice Marie Johnson, you just appointed her your pardon czar. She's a very honest person. She is someone who preached Bible when she was in prison, and she hopefully will do the right thing and at least give me a fair investigation. I mean, clemency, it's the final act of justice in my story. And I'm just praying that President Trump, he listens. And I'm trusting God to move hearts because I'm not done yet. I'm not even close to being done, if that makes sense.
No, it makes a lot of sense. And I believe, Donald Trump will hear you at some point. So keep up the good work, David. Thank you again for being such a supporter of not only Franzese Wine, but of our membership platform, the family. You're a great, contributor in there, and we appreciate everything. And I'm sure I'll get to meet you someday. I'm looking forward to that. All right, well, there you have it. I mean, if these stories don't inspire you, I don't know what will. Just ordinary people that came out of a bad situation and were able to turn their life around. And, the interesting thing, why we did this through, Franzese Wine, through my company, is because, the story of wine is a transforming story. Our grapes, our vineyards came from Armenia. Well, what's the story? Why Armenia, Michael? Why not Italy? Why not Napa Valley? You live in California. Why did you pick an Armenian wine? Whoever really heard of that? Well, I'll tell you why. Because the way the history goes on this, and I verified it, and it was written up in many magazines, and you can look for it yourself, is that when Noah's Ark landed and the flood subsided, it lands at the foot of Mount Ararat, which was Armenia at that time. New civilization, new people. God honored Noah and the whole new civilization. The first vineyards were grown at the foot of Mount Ararat. So it's kind of a transforming story there to begin with. And then the story of wine is transforming, from grapes, the way it goes through the process to transform itself to come into, wine, something that we all enjoy, obviously in moderation. And that's why I bonded with that story. That's why, my partner Sam, who's Armenian, came to me and said, Mr. Michael, you're the perfect guy because your life has been transforming. The story of wine is transforming. The history of Armenian wine is transforming. So that's why we put it together and we put out this challenge to people who have had a transforming life. I'm all about transformation, people. So listen, I want to be encouraging to all of you. If you have a situation, join our family. Come to us. We want to help you. We've helped many people. We're continuing to help many people. And that's what I've been doing for the last 30 years of my life. And I just find new ways to exercise that. And hopefully it's successful. And I think it has been, for many, many years now. So that's it for today, my friends. How do I always leave you? I hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll be bringing you more. And as you can see, it's not fully finished, but I'm in my new studio. You're going to see more of it and you're going to enjoy it. We got a lot of great content coming up. So please stay tuned. And as always, I appreciate all of you. Hit the subscribe button. Enjoy Franzese Wine. And thank you for keep returning for the content. How do I always leave you? Same way. Never going to change. Be safe. Our country's becoming safer. Be healthy. I think it's becoming more healthy. We heard some things recently about the COVID vaccine, not taking it anymore where it's not necessary. A lot of things are coming out that are going to be beneficial to us. Be safe, be healthy. I mean this. God bless each and every one of you, your families, your neighborhoods, your communities. God bless America. And yes, I'll see you next time. My friends, if you enjoyed this video, I'm going to give you an opportunity to become my partner in business. Franzese Wine experiencing tremendous growth over the past couple of years, and we're going to experience even further growth in the next few years. You're going to have an opportunity to be my partner because you've been supporting me, you've been my fan base, and I want to share this with you. So go to invest.franzesewine.com, and offer you shouldn't refuse.